FYI, I'm not going to say that now.
We're good now.
What a great way to start. Oh, it's top secret. We're recording now. We can't let on to anyone in this community.
I'm eating breakfast, so don't mind me, but
It's okay.
Well, welcome everyone. This is the final installment of Energizing Your Life, and we're all about filling our buckets, filling up our purpose, filling up our energy here so that we can live the life that we actually want and dream of. And today's episode is all about environment. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Dave. Welcome. I am an expert, not an influencer. I've had over 30 years of experience in this realm of health and wellness. I've helped over 10,000 patients, and now I'm helping people in the masses through channels like this and building technology and all sorts of fun things that way. But the whole goal of this is to actually be simple. What are the things that we can do on a daily basis to energize our life and fill our cup up, fill our bucket up? So today's episode with environment, we kind of alluded to this before we hit record, and that's kind of why we were laughing, is we're talking about all things surrounding us and being on us. So from Authentics, in my perspective of what is environment, there's the normal stuff of things like we can talk about nature, we can talk about air quality, water quality, our kitchen supplies, things of that nature. All of those things are the things that surround us. We can talk about the emotional surroundings around us, right? So there's the energetics of how we set up our office and the energetics of how we set up our bedroom, of having a TV in it or not, those sorts of things. But the thing that's not talked about a lot is the actual bacteria and fungus that lives on us. And so these have a really strong predisposition to changing even how we feel, how we act, our health, and everything like that. So I include this into the environment category because there's actually seamless continuation between the stuff that's living in us and on us and the actual environment around us. And so I'll give two big examples today. We're going to talk about this in some general concepts. And then my little strategy is going to really challenge you. This one's going to be a little bit different than normal in that the thing that I'm going to recommend today for the actual 30-day challenge that we're a part of is not something that you could do really long term. It is, but in today's society, it's not logical. It's not thing. So actually, why don't we just get into that before, because now I kind of led up to it. One of the things that I want you guys to try. Oh yeah, we got all sorts of comments coming in. Good, I'll be able to dig into that. The thing that I want you to try, and this is actually going to be challenging for you guys, is an hour before bed to only do candlelight. So to not have any lights on, to only be walking around and doing the things with candles around your house. So that is the challenge. And to try to do that consistently for 3 days in a row, and notice your stress and your sleep levels and what ends up happening. And the reason why is because environment. So instinctively, we all know this, but no one talks about it. Why is it that a romantic night involves candlelight? Why is it that we associate like Valentine's Day with candlelit dinners? Why is that romantic, right? Why is it that when we sit by the campfire, we get so de-stressed, we get so relaxed, and we want to fall into a deep sleep? It's because amber light mimics what the sunset is doing. That red light that comes down, it's erasing the blue light that's coming from the sun. And so what we're left with is red light that's hitting our eyes, and that actually changes the neurotransmitters in our brain. This is how our body knows that it's time for sleep. And so this is why we were talking right before we started recording. We started talking about the time change and, you know, all of these crazy things that we do to ourselves and our society. We have screens which emit blue light, and that is the exact mimicking of sun at the midday. So it's constantly stimulating us and telling our eyeballs and our brains to be always open and awake. And so when we go to a candlelight an hour before bed, we are signaling to our brain that it is time for bed, and we are automatically starting to become less stressed. We're starting to produce the melatonin. We're starting to produce all the other transmitters that go into getting us into a deep sleep. So now this is really fun because this is a simple habit. It is simple, right? Lighting a candle and a couple of candles around your house. It's not easy. And so what ends up happening is if you're not used to this, it's like hard to see at first, right? You fumble around, but once you get used to it, you can play board games, you can read. Once your eyes, in probably day 2 and 3, it becomes quite a bit easier. You actually can start to do, like, you could wash the dishes, you can stretch, you can do yoga, meditations, like all of these things in that hour, and it inspires you to do it. That's the weird thing, because there's nothing else to do. You can't watch TV, you can't put on your cell phone and things of that nature. So it's a transformative type of challenge just to go by candlelight. And a fun story, one of the things that I know you guys like when I tell stories, one of the things that we did when we closed down our office and we'd converted that school bus into a tiny home, we purposely didn't put electricity into it. So the reason why is because we tried to do as much as possible with candlelit stuff. And the next step of this, the next generation, is you can buy all red LED bulbs or amber bulbs. They're called Edison bulbs, which is a true amber color in the light wave that is only for red. So we filled our bus with those types of things. So we had candlelight. It was always red LED, and you have to buy the true red LED, and you can find these. Like, I have them in all of my light fixtures now in the house. At 7 o'clock, our house turns red, and it's because of this whole concept where we don't walk around with our big fluorescent lights on or anything of that nature. It's just pure red and amber through our house, and that is a relaxing thing that we do as a family. So yeah, field trip to Dr. Dave's house, right? See all the weird crap that I do. So that is the purpose of the candlelight, is that sunset is mimicking the sunset. It's relaxing you. It's getting the brain prepped and ready. So that is your challenge. That way you don't have to watch the rest of this video. If you don't want to, you can just go start lighting candles. But so let's talk even a little bit further about environment. What are the things around us? Another aspect of this is that integration between bugs and ourselves. So before the call too, we were talking a little bit about nature. In nature, this is really cool. This is something that really is, I hate to say it this way, it's a new advancement in science, this thing called nature. And the reason why I say it this way is because when I was going to school in the late 90s for biochemistry, we were learning about our DNA as there's a whole bunch of stuff in our DNA that's just junk DNA. Literally, you could go back and look at those textbooks, and they were labeled junk DNA because we didn't know what they did. They're called the exosomes. We now know, about 10 years ago, that we started understanding that what these exosomes do, they unravel, like when the messenger RNA gets replication of our DNA, they get wrapped up in little circles, and they're like little email packets. And what we now know of nature is that plants do the same thing as what we do, and we actually share those little pieces of DNA as signaling back and forth. So this is the cool thing. This is what science is now proving, that we have direct connections with people around us. We're actually sharing our DNA packets as little email packets, like we're breathing them in, breathing them out. They're coming off of our skin, all of those sorts of things. But the same thing is happening with plants around us. And so this is why it's one of the things that when you get into nature, it's a signaling system to your body to start to change in a positive way for our brains, for our body. This is why it's so important to have a plant in your bedroom. This is why it can be so beneficial to even just have a single plant in your house that you have to take care of. And it's simply because there's an interaction between the two of you, and it's in a positive way. So yeah, I love taking deep breaths in the forest. This is one of those things, when you're in a deep old forest, one that hasn't been touched by humans all that much, and you get in there and there's all of the different funguses, all of the different, like, 100 years worth of old logs and things like that, where the full cycles have happened, you take a breath and it's like the most refreshing thing. You immediately, like, I'm getting goosebumps right now just thinking about it, of that sensation that you get, that nature bathing. And this has been around for centuries, right? The Japanese are the first to label this as nature bathing. It's because instinctively all of our old wisdom is now being proven through science, and we now know what the actual benefits are, that we're actually sharing this DNA exchange, and we're sharing this communication between the world around us and internally with us. All right. Oh, I love plants, but never in my bedroom because of bugs. Well, you're not supposed to bring bugs into your house plants. Little bugs are okay. We like little bugs. Yes, I'm saying little email packets, like little emails. Yep. Yeah, and integration with bugs in ourselves. This is why, even like when you go to let's just say you get fresh chicken eggs. The chicken eggs from pasture raised, free range chicken, it's going to have a different bacterial coating all around the egg, and that's actually what preserves it. That's why you actually don't stick eggs in your refrigerator that hasn't, once they're pasteurized, you have to refrigerate them. When you live on a farm or you have access to fresh eggs, you don't refrigerate them because of the coating around the egg keeps it as from rotting, right? And when you think about this, you're like, oh yeah, duh, because the egg is sitting in the nest. If they were to actually be raising this egg, it can't be rotten, right? They can't lay an egg and have it go bad. But that stuff exchanges into you. When you start making that fresh egg, that is a communication with you that you are getting something more natural. And so the more we get back to eating our food from the land, eating some raw food every once in a while, leaving, obviously not like dirt on your vegetables, but like not washing it obsessively with soap and things like that, we're actually getting all that great communication into our body. We're getting all that bacterial infiltration into our gut system. And the crazy thing about this is, I know I'm going off on all these tangents here, but what we know is that it can take only 3 days to completely change your gut biome. So we did this when we studied people. We shipped them from America over to Africa to completely like live off of the land with some of the tribes people. And what they did is they followed them for a whole month of doing stool samples. And it only took them 3 days to start to have a gut bacteria biome like the tribe that they were living in. And so this is how much of an impact of eating raw food, eating straight from the land can have. But when we wash everything, we don't get that. Like if we obsessively wash it off and we use, pasteurized everything and that kind of stuff. So our gut bacteria actually don't get a chance to mold. And in fact, a lot of them get imbalanced. So this is where we get gas and bloating. This is where we get all sorts of health issues. We get leaky gut problems because we're not getting enough of the natural bacteria into our body. Any question? Wow, you guys are really active in the chats. Holy cow.
Welcome to our team.
Yeah, right. All right. Yeah, we're talking about bugs and eggs. Yes, welcome to the conversation. Yeah, little bugs in the soil. This is great. This is when I'm a big geek. When I started learning about health, when I had all of my health issues, when I really started working this stuff out for myself, realizing that I was not as smart as I thought I was back in the days, I kept asking myself, okay, I need gut health issues. I had gut health issues, so I still have some autoimmune issues. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do this with my food, right? Like I've got to restore my gut health. And then I started buying, what I thought was good food. And then I was like, okay, why is this not making an effect? And I just kept asking myself bigger questions. And what it came back to was soil. Soil is the root of all of our health. And bugs in the soil, fungus in the soil especially, This is called soil regeneration. So this is what, I've talked about this on previous episodes. This is why I'm building a food forest. This is why I'm doing permaculture in my backyard, is because I'm rebuilding the soil. I'm rebuilding it from the standpoint of making that balance of nature and ecosystem between fungus, bacteria, all the different soil bacterias that go into making the food that we're eating. And by nature of doing that, we're building an exponentially more nutritious product that has it covered in fungus and bacteria. And when you eat that, it naturally starts to balance out your gut health. And so this is what I had to learn from the obsessiveness that I had to have of figuring out why things weren't working for me, and what I needed to do as a next step. And so yeah, it's hugely important. Our current agriculture system, just completely depletes everything, and then they think that just throwing cow manure on, because we tend to think of the past 100 years from a science standpoint. Okay, we're missing phosphorus. How do we replace phosphorus? And they, just like supplementation, right? They're like, oh, we're lacking these three nutrients: potassium, phosphorus, and nitrogen. Let's just throw some poop on the ground, right? And replace that. But that's not the way that it works, because those chemicals all need fungus. Those chemicals all need bacteria, and they need a balance, the different types of plants, to actually balance the soil out. So in permaculture, we do what's called a trifecta, where we plant a fruit tree or some sort of productive tree. You plant 3 to 6 bushes around that, and then you plant low level, like 12 different edible, like onions, leeks, different things like that, that are perennial. We're not talking like garden onions, we're talking like wild onions and things that you can just walk by and pluck the leaves off. The balance of these three things is that they promote it so that you never have to weed, you never have to like take care of anything. All three of these types of plants feed each other from a nutrition standpoint. And then when you start to eat those products, you by nature are getting the benefit of that. And so you never have to till, you never have to do that input. Yes, could I define permaculture? There's lots of ways to define permaculture, but my definition of permaculture is using the land to its advantage without having to, as little human input as possible to, work the land, grow the land, and that kind of stuff. So there's all sorts of, just like any other concept, there's all sorts of different ways to do it. So yeah, this is yes, food forest is blowing up in the chat. Yes, you guys are definitely this is fun. This is the environment that we're in, right? And so let's even talk about that further benefits. So now we know that we're sharing DNA with plants, we're sharing fungus and bacteria with plants. Then there's that energetic equation. Humans evolved in nature. And so there's something just very therapeutic and energetic about getting around natural things. So even in our kitchens, even in our fabrics, even in our desks, right? Having a wood desk versus a plastic desk, you can feel that as an energetic difference, because one, plastic has a weird like electricity about it. Like for me personally, I am a very static electricity type of person. I get shocked and, all sorts of crazy things. I steam up windows when I'm by them. And what I found is that when I'm around a lot of plastic, like if I have plastic Tupperware, plastic tables, things of that nature, I literally feel it. And it sounds weird, it sounds crazy, but once you start paying attention to this type of stuff, the more natural that you get, the less my skin gets dried out, the less that all these sorts of things, like plastic sucks the life out of me, literally, is what I've determined. And it affects a lot of people, but they don't even think about it. So getting into the kitchen, uh, getting the mason jars, getting the glass jars, those sorts of things. One, it's economical, right? You're not like going through Tupperware, throwing them out. You're not throwing out plastic bags with all of your leftover foods. You just have to wash it a little bit, right? And so switching over to glass, switching over to like wooden cutting boards, those sorts of things can be very healthy for us, because the plastics leak out different toxins. And even if they're BPA free, right, they're this aspect, they still have this permeability to them. Whereas wood, this is the great thing that you learn when you start to get into fermentation. And the old way of making cheese was that they never washed their buckets. They used old wooden buckets, and the bacteria that is in that wood creates a balanced ecosystem for cheese making. Whereas if you use stainless steel, statistically, you actually get more bad bacteria growth. And so you have to end up obsessively washing all of your materials if you're using the stainless steel and things like that, versus some of the old wooden buckets that had just been used for like 50 years and never been washed. Those good bacteria eat up the bad bacteria, and this is the balance of fermentation, right? So I make sauerkraut at home. I make a lot of different things like that, where you just throw stuff in to mason jars, but I use wood to do everything, right? I have my wooden mortar and pestle type of things. And it just creates a good balance when you're doing fermentation. So you learn this stuff as you go along. Jeez. Fantastic Fungi, yes. That's a great documentary from the standpoint it gets really people, it gets people exposed to this whole concept of mycelium and fungus and the importance of them. It was only like 10 years ago that we started discovering fungus in our digestive tract. We tend to all talk about bacteria, but we now know that there's fungus growing in us. And actually, it is kind of a weird thought of we're more closely related to fungus than anything else. I truly believe, and this is crazy, not scientific, but we probably at some point in our history, the mycelium is our actual gut-brain connection, because mycelium is a network of communication. So fungus, this is how trees actually talk to each other. This is how communication of, hey, there's nutrients over here, but not over here. This is how trees know each other and plants know each other. At some point in our history, I'm assuming that we had stuff connect our brain and our gut together through mycelium, and then it turned into human anatomy, which is a really crazy thought. What else do you guys have? This is fun.
I don't know. It's so wild.
Lots of wild stuff. Yeah. Who would have thought a talk about an environment would have led to all of this? I'm reading through, trying to catch up on all your comments here.
Yeah, also ants, not ants, sorry, not ants. Bees are a very, very important element, because without them, we wouldn't live without the bees. So
Crazy,
yeah,
isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, when you realize how much they actually do, pollinators are a huge thing. Everyone can help, you know, like this consistently goes back to, we all can help change the world for the positive. You know, Martin Luther King said the best day to plant a tree was 20 years ago, but today is, you know, the next best day is today. Today, we could all just go throw some wildflower seeds out into our yard, right? Like you can just buy some packets and don't mow over the damn area. You know, you don't have to have all green grass in your yard. All of us could set aside a little 4x4 section of our yard and just throw some, you know, compost and mulch down and things of that nature, and just throw some wildflower seeds in there so that the pollinators have something to pass by wherever they're going. And it literally will help the world change. I'm a big believer of, there's a couple of nonprofits out there doing it. Texas does a pretty good job of this because they protect their state wildflowers. But if you look at all the green grass in America and you know, other highway systems around the world as well, why would we plant grass along the side of the road when we could be planting things for pollinators? That perennials that they never have to mow. You know, think of the lower cost of energy of never having to mow along the side of the ditch. The reason why they do it is so that animals don't run up on the road. I get that, but you can plant bushes and things like that where, you know, if deer are running across the road, you're still going to be able to see them. You don't have to plant big wispy things. you can plant stuff that's going to be good for the environment and bees and butterflies and all of those sorts of things. So there are a couple of charities out there doing it, but we definitely need more of it. And that will literally is some crazy stat between that and golf courses, right? I think it makes up like 40-50% of the green grass in the world is just going along highways. It's insane. But if we all did our part of just planting a little bit in our yard, we would benefit, bees benefit, we enjoy it from a scenery standpoint, and there's no maintenance to it. Like, just throw something out there that continually grows. Like there's these things called butterfly bushes. It's a perennial bush that gets like 3 feet by 3 feet, flowers most of the year, and it's good in a lot of different climates. And yeah, you just get all the benefits out of it. So why would we not? Yeah, butterfly bush. Very cool. All right, so we'll do this. Otherwise I'm going to keep talking for hours. We'll loop it back. This is the last time. So please try the Candlelight. Do it for 3 days. Get your Candlelight on. And two, if you want to get deeper into it, make sure that it's not just a commercialized petroleum candle where it smells bad, right? Get like a soy candle or a beeswax candle. They burn a lot cleaner. You don't get much of that black soot and things of that nature. But get a bunch of them and set them around your house so that you can see a little bit and keep doing it. But it's a fun little challenge. It'll show you what you've been missing and doing to yourself with all of your technology around. And that's the purpose of this challenge, is to explore things that work for you. And so I think this is the last one of this series. So I'll summarize that, is that all of these things, if you go back and you look at all of the recordings, the purpose of this was for you. You pick out the things that work the best for you, and you try to integrate, and you keep and hold on to doing 2 to 3 of the things out of this whole challenge, the things that work for you, because we know that it just takes one little thing, that if you start doing it on a consistent basis, that consistency is what matters over intensity and focus and all of these other things. If you consistently do one little thing, it leads open to all of the other things that you're going to do, because it's a momentum equation. It's filling your bucket. It's a never-ending process. You're not just going to do something and suddenly you're magically fixed for the rest of your life. It's these little habits that we have to explore for ourselves to find out what works for us, and that changes as we age. As different stages of our life happen, we need to do different things. And so having the awareness of trying these things, having the awareness of exploring our bodies and what works for us and what doesn't work for us, is the best way to health. There is no perfect set of health. Don't beat yourself up. Just keep trying. And that's all we can ever do until we are no longer.
Dave, can I tell you about my alarm clock?
Yes, thank you. I saw that in the comments. How are you liking it?
So basically, I Googled gentle, and I featured you in this week's Explore, so I'll forward that on to you and the whole sleep thing. Explore is a newsletter we send out. So
okay.
But yeah, so I Googled gentle alarm clocks, and so the one I bought, it has like a and so it has a time, then it has a ring of light. And so I can set it so however many minutes before I go to bed, it will, start bright. And then it, like 15 minutes or 30 minutes, it goes off gradually. But then in the morning, what is amazing is that, so it's supposed to emulate the sunrise, I guess. And what's happened is most times I notice the light before the sound goes off, which are little birdies, actually.
Yes. Yep.
And so Nick, my boyfriend, is so pleased about this because he hates my alarms, and I wake up before he does. And but the most amazing thing is that I was putting in my phone on airplane mode and hiding it away in my bathroom. And that was so amazing to have that thing away from me. My mother's now put in a formal complaint because she wants to be able to reach me
Right.
in emergencies. But I figured out there's like an emergency bypass thing
Yes.
on the iPhone. So now I've been putting it in a box and putting it like under the table so I can't get to it, but my mother can still reach me. Anyway, I'm so chuffed and so excited, and it's all thanks to you.
Yeah. Well, it's all thanks to you. You took action. This is reward yourself. This is, this information is out there, right? All of this information. I'm not creating anything new. This is you actually taking responsibility for yourself, and you should be just overwhelmed with gratitude for yourself that you did this, you explored it, and you reap the benefits from it.
Overwhelmed with gratitude to myself. I love that.
Yeah. And it sounds like it. It sounds like you are. It's some of these things, like,
I'm so excited about
right,
it.
they're all so simple. They're also common sense that we tend to overlook all of this type of stuff. Like an alarm, it, by the nature of it, scares the shit out of our brain. And we're like, why do we wake up stressed? Oh, maybe it's our alarm, right? Like, but it's so simple that people don't even think about it.
Yeah. So Vanessa, please share the link where you got your alarm. I'm curious. I wanted to.
It will
Yeah.
be an Explore this week at
Oh,
Hannah.
great.
Yes.
Awesome. And Dr. Dave, just could you repeat the instruction for today's activity, this week's activity for Coco?
Yep.
Just to make sure everyone has the
3 days. Yeah, I got to get my fingers right here. 3 days. 3 days of trying an hour before bed to do everything with candlelight. So turning off all your lights, your technology, everything of that nature, walking around, doing the things that you want to do under candlelight only. That is the challenge. And just trying to get that 3 days in a row in is going to give you this balance point of, it's going to make you aware of how much light is around you at night. And it's going to make you think, just like this alarm clock aspect, like, oh, wow, I'm really barraging myself with a lot of light at night. And it gives you that awareness so that you can start to take measures in your house to start to say, okay, I responded really well when I had the candlelight at night. How can I balance this? How can I turn off lights at night? How can I get the red lights? So the next step was this of, if you're affected by this and it works well for you, to get true red LED lights. They have to be the true red. They can't be, because most lights, the cheap way to make LED lights is that LED, the original drivers were blue only, and then they just put a red cover around it. That is not red. That is blue light coming through with a red tint. And so you have to find the actual true LED red light, or amber bulbs. And they're sometimes called Thomas Edison bulbs, but they're in the amber spectrum of light wave. And then you just outfit your house. I've got, I don't have my remote right next to me, but everything in my house is remote controlled. So instead of light switches, we have remote controls that it comes with, the 24 different colors of all of the fun stuff. But we have little strips. We have the LED strips around our house, around the ceiling, so that when we turn it on, like, it's this nice low red light around everything, and we can see and do everything that we want to do. We changed all of our light bulbs in, like, our ceiling fans and our light fixtures over to these LED things. During the day, you just press the white button, which is like our normal light, and then at 7 o'clock at night, we just hit the red button and it turns into red only.
So nice.
So that's redoing the challenge.
Thank you so much for that. Yeah,
Yes.
I love it.
But feel free to comment below, as we end this video. Tell us how things are going, like the alarm clock feedback. This is how we all learn. We get excited, and we tend to, even me spouting off all this great information, it's going to be, other people are going to be more inspired by your success with the alarm clock. And so when we share these things, we share what's working, we tend to inspire other people. And this is how we build true community around health is sharing the things that go wrong and sharing the things that go right. And together we find the things that work. And so feel free to comment, feel free to ask questions. I'll still be popping on here and engaging and those sorts of things as even though this is the last one, I can still stay up with this, and maybe we'll do a series of something else. So maybe since you guys love the permaculture thing, we could do a little permaculture class.
Yeah.
That would be fun. Like how to incorporate plants into your daily life, no matter what your expertise level is. Beginner, never run a plant before, to I've farmed before. And
I'm like very, very like I'm like pre-beginner.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Like, so
I'm like everything you're saying, I'm like just trying to even
just think
like
about this.
grab onto some sort of word. I like know what it means, or like it's
There's probably only maybe 99% of the population has never owned a plant or even done anything with a plant, right? Like, so when I talk about these things with people, I come with it with that intention of, how can we get one plant in your house, and how can you learn how to take care of it? And just that alone gives you a significant impact in your life. You're taking care of something, you're sharing with nature, those sorts of things. But then all the way up to, if you own some land, or even if you're renting, you can start composting. You can start paying attention to your food. You can start paying attention to creating soil. I call it being a soil maker, right? When you compost. You can add a little garden, even if you're renting in an apartment. Like, you literally can just go spread seeds along the edge of the building where people tend to, like, landscapers don't take care of it or something like that. And you can take care of that, and you can feel good about it. And then you can watch the bees, you can watch the butterflies start to come. So there's all sorts of cool things that we can do. Anyways, before I get started again, thank you guys very much for your time. This was great. I loved interacting with everyone. And oh boy, I just saw that there's 19 more messages. There's only like 4 or 5 of you on the... Let me just make sure there's no other questions that I missed. Okay, perfect. Yes. Oh, your landlord has a garden. Yeah, see, it's actually, I'll put it into the chat here. Makesoil.org is a great organization.
Make soil. Oh, that's nice.
It teaches you how to compost and become a soil maker. And it's got all of the instructions on it, but it's also like, it's an app. So you're actually like, you can get certified on there, and then your neighborhood can know that they can bring food to your compost. And so you can find each other, you can find other soil makers in your community. Some people actually turn this into a business. So like, you can actually make some seriously good money making compost, because if you do it in a way where you don't allow like chemicals and food preservatives, people get very strict about this, but they don't want to make their own soil. They just want a chemical-free compost, and they'll pay for it. So you can do this where you're just simply throwing in your food scraps from you and the community and people around you, and you bag it up and you can sell it to people who want this really good compost. So you can actually make money. It's really cool. Yeah.
Great. We can't wait to come to your home, Dave, when you invite us.
Right. Awesome. Well, thank you guys. We will for sure end this now. I think on the fifth time. All right. Talk to you all later.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Marla, for
much.
this. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.